Hi, Reverend Wendy Fambro here from Emmanuel Baptist Church. Zoom had a nationwide nervous breakdown today, so I'm going to record my part of the service for you and hope it means something to somebody somewhere. This is from 1 Peter chapter 3, 13 to 16. It reads as follows: Now, who will harm you if you are eager to do what is good? But even if you do suffer for doing what is right, you are blessed. Do not fear what they fear, and do not be intimidated, but in your hearts sanctify Christ as Lord. Always be ready to make your defense to anyone who demands from you an account of the hope that is in you. Yet do it with gentleness and reverence. And then from the Gospel according to John, the 14th chapter, verses 15 to 21. If you love me, you will keep my commandments. And I will ask the Father, and he will give you another advocate to be with you forever. This is the Spirit of truth, whom the world cannot receive because it neither sees him nor knows him. You know him because he abides with you, and he will be in you. I will not leave you orphaned. I am coming to you. In a little while, the world will no longer see me, but you will see me. Because I live, you also will live. On that day, you will know that I am in my Father, and you in me, and I in you. They who have my commandments and keep them are those who love me, and those who love me will be loved by my Father, and I will love them and reveal myself to them. So I called this sermon Discerning Truth, and here are my thoughts on that topic. If you love me, you will keep my commandments, and I will ask the Father, and he will give you another advocate to be with you forever. This is the Spirit of truth. You know her because she abides with you, and she will be in you. These days, claiming one's truth has become increasingly difficult. So many people with so many alternate versions of truth. Some of them coming from a genuine place of differing perspectives, many of them coming from a desire to manipulate others for personal gain. Truth, it's a slippery concept because as an alternative we have lies, shading of facts, ignorant falsehoods, knowing deceptions, white lies, tall tales, prevarications, evasion, perjury, fraud, dishonesty, disinformation, deceit. Do you honestly ever feel like we're just drowning in all of this? That truth is kind of this distant memory of something that perhaps maybe never actually was? I was raised, as I suspect were all of you, to believe that lying was bad and that honesty was the best policy. It wasn't just an unspoken belief, it was one that was actively taught to us. We as kids might get into trouble for telling the truth about something we had done that was naughty, but we'd get into bigger trouble if we lied about it. I remember a story from my parents about how my older sister was so good at lying, not in a malicious way, but more in an imaginative way, that they actually set up a sting operation. They created a set of circumstances that would trap her. They would then catch her in a lie and therefore be able to teach her why that was wrong. She's a minister now, so guess that worked. But we also know that as we get older, this policy of honesty and truth becomes a bit more nuanced, and we recognize that perceptions can vary, facts can be shifted in ways to portray variations on truth. And as our lives become increasingly complex and our concerns more global, we also come to understand that it is nearly impossible to ever know all of the facts that impact any given situation or decision. Still, the reality is that truth continues to matter. Truth is not just an optional element in the way that we choose to live, but can actually be the difference between life and death. The way that one person portrays truth impacts all of those around them, which is why this notion of truth is so often at the heart of conflicts, and why, quite literally, people can live or die depending on how truth is proclaimed. Many of us are wrestling with this these days as we witness people giving voice to truth that stands in direct contradiction to our own understandings of what is real. As mature people of faith, who pride ourselves on being open-minded, we do our best to first listen and then to try and see if there's an element of genuine truth to what is being shared, even if it contradicts our own perspective. Then, often, we squirm, we try to distance ourselves, or sometimes we try to go into battle with our own version of truth. And none of it feels very good at all. In our Bible Reflections group, this topic comes up fairly often. How to engage with people who may be promoting something as truth that we see as both false and often harmful. It's a difficult question and one that I've been really trying to resolve in my own heart. So this morning I'd like to share with you a couple of insights from Scripture that have been helpful to me in sorting through this and maybe would be helpful to you as well. First and foremost is this passage from John that I read earlier, in which the resurrected Jesus left his heartbroken and fearful and uncertain disciples with this promise that he would send them a gift. It would be an advocate, the Spirit of truth. And the Spirit of truth would not just accompany them, alongside of them, but would actually take up residence within them. Each of them would carry the Spirit of truth from then on. Presumably, as disciples of Christ, each one of us carries that same Spirit. What do we know about this Spirit of truth? Does it mean that we are no longer capable of telling a lie because the Spirit of truth is within us? Does it mean that we have exclusive access to the unfiltered, unshakable truth of any given situation? I don't think so. I believe it means that within each one of us is this relationship of love that John goes on to talk about. Our souls are in this constant exchange of love between ourselves, Jesus, God, and others. It's this flowing movement, and I think that this living, breathing, evolving place of love is also our truth filter. We absorb what is being told to us, and we filter it through this place of loving awareness, and then we act upon our own discernment of its particular value. So that all sounds a bit esoteric. I think John often sounds that way. He's a bit more poetic than concrete. Matthew, the Gospel of Matthew, has another take on the whole truth versus lies reality that surrounds us, and how the Spirit of truth might help us to discern a way forward. So we read in Matthew 7, "Beware of false prophets, who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly are ravenous wolves. You will know them by their fruits. Every good tree bears good fruit. Bad trees, bad fruit." This seems the most straightforward path to me. Consider the source. Consider the consequences of any given proclamation of truth. In other words, someone may be promoting a particular set of facts as truth. So besides researching the facts, we are also beholden to our faith to send those facts through our Spirit of truth filter, to consider the source or the prophet, and to discern whether the truth they are promoting is likely coming from a place of love, and whether their love will nourish love in the world. We look at the fruit that has been borne by the speaker up until now and the harvest that will likely follow if we commit to their particular truth. So if we choose to follow that truth, what is likely to follow? And is that the most loving path we can take? Well, this has been very helpful to me. I am a person who is overly aware of the truth that I can never know all the facts. It is impossible to ever have access to each and every fact that fuels any given circumstance. And this awareness can stop me from wanting to proclaim my own truth. But what if, instead of tying my anchor to a set of facts, I instead commit to a spirit of truth? One that seems most clearly to be coming from a place of compassionate, just, and fierce love, and that will bear fruit that best expresses that same love. I read on in Matthew and found the words that actually spoke most strongly to me in this particular time. In the midst of a chapter in which Matthew is describing all of the horrible things that can and likely will go wrong in the world, many of which we are living through right now, and after warning about false prophets and lying leaders and even people who proclaim themselves as saviors, Matthew notes that many people will be led astray and that this will lead to an increase in lawlessness, violence, and other forms of destruction. And here are the words that struck home and that I offer as a note of caution for all of us this morning. Because of all of this, he writes, all of this bad news, the love of many will grow cold. So we may not see ourselves as false prophets or manipulators or purveyors of violence. But it is possible for the Spirit of truth that abides within us to become inert, to get crushed under the load of falsehoods and despair. It is possible for the Spirit of truth to grow weary, fearful, and silent. The love of many will grow cold. It is critical that we continue to stir our souls with love. It is imperative that we continue to exercise that spirit of truth that is within us, that we risk committing ourselves to those voices, those stories, and decisions which seem most closely to reflect the advocate that was given to us, God's truth, which is grounded in and expresses itself as love. And here's my personal note on this. I offer my own warning here to my fellow people of faith. I believe that it's critical to this task that the truth we express embodies that spirit of truth, the spirit of truth. If we speak in ways that are hurtful or harmful or in any way deny the humanity of others, whether or not we agree with them, then how will people know that our words come from the place of truth, capital T, truth, spirit of truth? I was telling our Bible Reflections group that I often hesitate to share my own thoughts on any given social or political situation on social media. Not because I'm concerned about those who may disagree with me and who might come back at me sharing their own views in response. They're not actually the ones I worry about. I'm afraid of posting something because I'm afraid that those who do share my perspective will jump in with words that are ugly, shaming, blaming, hurtful, and that God's spirit of truth will just get buried. Still, I believe it's important to commit to facts and voices and perspectives and actions that best reflect the Spirit of God that is love. It is our calling. It is our calling not to grow cold, but to listen ever more closely, within and without, and to burn ever more brightly with the Spirit of truth that is within us. May God bless you on this journey of truth. Amen.